Spoilers, absolutely. There has to be spoilers, otherwise this will be an utterly pointless review. Spoilers. I've been trying all morning to come up with some entertaining way to incorporate the multiverse theme into this book review, but I can't think of anything funny or clever. Maybe in a parallel universe, there's another version of me that's not just sitting here somewhere, just staring into the camera, other than just staring into the camera. And then maybe I'm wearing a different shirt, or is this version of me parallel the shirt quite quickly picks this up? So now I have to get things on camera while the other, while I'm pressing this red parallel universe, there's a white camera pop up and colourblind. That's a really weird brain exercise here. Then I'm referring to myself. I'm not even looking at the colours. White, red, green, blue. Yeah, mainly staring. I think that's enough. I think that's enough. Dark Matter, 2016, Blake Crouch. This was my very first Blake Crouch book. It was our community read-along in July, along with Recursion, which I read immediately after this. That review is coming very soon. The reputation for Dark Matter, the international bestseller, the hype surrounding this is absolutely massive, and it seems to be right across the science fiction spectrum and leaking into the mainstream. So I was expecting great things from this. Let me show my cards right from the start. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's fucking great, but something else, something unexpected happened. It made me question and examine why I like science fiction in the first place and how we all quantify enjoyment. I'm not sure if I'll actually be able to provide any conclusive answers or fascinating insights into any of that in the next 10 minutes, but I just wanted to highlight the power and the luxury of being able to sit down and write reviews and actually think about what I've just read rather than just moving on to the next book. It does change the reading experience. I love my job. Within the first 10 pages, I understand why Dark Matter has such a far reach. It's not super intimidating science fiction right from the start. There's no wonky prose or abstract world building to unlock. It's pretty much normal people doing normal things in a current day suburb of Chicago. Our main character, Jason, is a physics professor who chose a family life over his career. He chose to commit more time to his wife and have a child and build that relationship instead of pursuing a career dedicated to the study of quantum mechanics. And that's the core of the entire book for me. Blake Crouch talks about fate and consequences and the splitting of realities and who are we really? What makes me, me? And it's extremely interesting. But from the very start of the book, it's about love. It's about a guy just trying to get back to his wife. And it works. The plot is presented as an out-and-out thriller. In the first act, science fiction stuff is happening all over the place, but the action and the tension is focused on Jason trying to escape from the bad guys and piece together what the fuck is actually happening. As we go through the book, we get more and more out there, more science fiction, more complicated, I suppose. It reminded me quite a bit of Inception, not necessarily in plot but in execution. The concepts are always in danger of falling apart if the writing leans into realism instead of good storytelling, and I think that's one of Dark Matter's great successes. Christopher Nolan and Blake Crouch both understand the importance of entertainment. That's the key here. You have to entertain the audience, and that's where Dark Matter lands. In the moment, pulpy, fun science fiction. That may sound like I'm dismissing this as something inferior, sci-fi with training wheels. That's why I mentioned quantifying enjoyment at the start of this review. I have as much love for this, although it's a different kind of love, for something like this and The Martian and the Bobbyverse as I do for literature with a capital L. So it turns out the multiverse is a real thing, and Jason, our main character, Jason from a parallel universe, invents the machine that allows you to jump between realities. Stop right there. This is the kind of book that is going to lose a certain type of reader as soon as you start talking about science. If you want to apply our real world logic to this fictional world, I could complain and whinge all day about the lack of clarity. Does this version of the multiverse and the way that the timelines interact only come into effect when someone actually invents a conduit between the different universes? Why didn't that already exist before? How? Why? I've never really understood why some people are obsessed, especially science fiction fans, obsessed with finding the fault in the fun fictional thing. Anyway, we are following the perspective, the viewpoint of an alternative Jason, the guy that is in love with his wife and didn't follow the career. He is a different version of the original Jason that made the box, that made the multiverse jumping machine. Did I get that right? That the imposter Jason in this book is Prime Jason. He is the original. If there is such a thing, he is the first one, right? Because he made the box and jumped into the alternate universe, which is the one that we follow from the beginning of the book, I think. This is what I mean about having the luxury of being able to take my time and write a review and go back over the details of the book. Perspective is so important to Dark Matter, and it's something that I didn't fully appreciate while I was reading it. Imagine if this was a book about a scientist that invented a box that allowed you to travel to parallel universes, and you found another version of you yourself that chose love over work because you're not very happy. But this version is much happier. He's with the love of his life, the woman that you know that you abandoned. You chose not to be with her. So you think, right, I'm going to take his place. I'm going to remove this guy. It's a little bit unfair to that version of yourself, the parallel version of yourself. So you kidnap him and take his place. Well, it is about that guy, but we follow the victim Jason because why? Because he's innocent, because he has a more interesting story, because it tugs a little bit harder on the heartstrings, or is it because we like to follow a protagonist instead of an antagonist? My point is, Blake Crouch navigates all the science, waves his hand over the logic, and he gets to forge a path that makes this book as entertaining as possible. Another thing I must mention before it escapes my mind, and it's about things escaping my mind. Straight after I finished this book and I got to read some of the community comments and dig a little bit deeper, that was the peak of this book's appeal. It was fresh. It was great, a big score. As the days ticked by and I started to think about other things and read other books, the details start to flutter away. The nuanced science bits get a bit foggy and that big score starts to drop. Now that I'm writing the review, it starts to creep up again. Somehow, this book needs my attention. The very act of observing this book affects the superposition of the quantum state, causing the wave function to collapse. So if you don't entirely agree with this book review, just know that there are an infinite amount of Brad Pitts out there reviewing this book in a way that lines up exactly with your opinion.
Hello, Moid of the Future here. Thank you for tuning into one of our archive videos, which was recorded many moons ago. Media Death Cult has evolved a lot over the years, so be sure to check out the more recent projects on the channel. You can support what we do here by grabbing yourself a t-shirt or a mug at the merch store, using Buy Me a Coffee, which is an online tipping service, or you can actually join the cult on Patreon and gain access to our exclusive Discord server, the best read-alongs in the galaxy, and the podcast, Radio Death Cult. Links to all that good stuff in the description of this video. Thank you so much. Peace!
I really like the timing of the expansion of the world. It's not until we get to the middle of the book that we experience the major action showpiece. Jason and Amanda, was that her name? Jason and Amanda visit different realities looking for a way home. I'm enjoying the pacing and the cinematic feel. It is a little bit predictable, I will say that. Once we know that there is a possibility to jump around different realities, you can kind of see that sequence coming, but it's still a great trip. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, Blake Crouch. I understand you can't have characters running around the corridors of time and space with no foundation at all. I think the legwork is very important for a book like this, but it does feel a little bit clunky sometimes. But I think that's the nature of this medium soft science fiction. Where it did keep its hooks in me was the emotional angle, the dark undertones, and the evolution of the plot into the final act. That's where it stopped being predictable. That was my favourite part of the book. We're not searching for treasure. We're not trying to save the world. Jason just wants to get back to page 1 of the book and be with his wife. And I think it's a brilliant plot device to have another version of himself as the antagonist. I didn't expect the theme of identity to come through quite as strong as it did. Whether that's by accident, which I don't think it is, or it's the reader, me, filling in the blanks myself, we have stumbled across a fascinating headfuck in this relatively pedestrian novel. It's my understanding that each time Jason visits another universe, each time any of the Jasons visit another universe, a new universe is created, another Jason comes into existence. So wait, we're only following the version of Jason that convinces his wife to go with him at the end. He is the tricky one when it matters the most. So we can label Jason 2, what the book refers to as Jason 2, as the evil Jason, because he is trying to fuck over our Jason and steal his version of his wife. But all of the other Jasons are legitimate because they all start splitting after he's been kidnapped and he's trying to get back to his wife. So it's an equal split every time it happens, right? I don't care if that's wrong. I fucking love that. And it gets really, really dark at the end, especially the bit with Danielle, the wife, where she seems to have convinced herself that the Jason standing in front of her is indeed the right one, because he's convinced her he's the right one. I mean, he may be. I'm not even that sure at this point in the book, but that means she is fucking off all the other Jasons that have the same memories. They have shared the life. They have had the child together. Not Jason 2. That's why we can kind of single him out as proper evil, because he didn't live that life. But all the others coming down the pipeline love her in the same way. And I think she's just sort of, whether she realises it or not, she's just picking the one in front, standing there because it's like convenient. I'll go with you. You seem like the right sort of Jason, the kind of guy that I used to know. And then we can just ride off into the sunset and leave all these other Jasons behind. It's really fucked up. It comes down to this for me. You can pick this book to pieces and desperately look for the plot holes, and you will probably find them. Or you can go with it and have a very entertaining few hours, and maybe something a lot more. A score for Dark Matter, or more accurately, why I like what I like when I like it, and why that is a very complicated thing to process and convey. This has been creeping into more and more of my videos lately. I give a score out of 10 at the end of all of my book reviews to turn a gut feeling into a number. It's nice for the rhythm of the video. I think it's good for the content. It's something that I can repeat at the end of every review. A score! The day I finished this book, I posted on Discord something like, I will be shocked if Dark Matter isn't in my top 3 at the end of the year. A week later, 2 weeks later, and beyond, the energy of the book, which turned out to be a very, very important thing, the energy has all but disappeared. So all I'm left with is the embers of the story and memory. And I think the further I get away from it, the lower the score will drop, or it will definitely level off. But if I'm recommending this, fuck yeah, I hope you experience the same burst of entertainment that I had. I still remember it being brilliant. And now that I'm talking about it and reviewing it and looking over it again, the energy has returned and the score kind of goes up again. So I'm now thinking of multiple versions of Jason and what it means, and did I read that bit properly? Will I reread this again one day? Probably, because it was a lot of fun. I might take it on a plane or read it on holiday. It's one of those types of books. Give me more popcorn science fiction. I guess I read a fair amount of heavy, technical, deep prose literature, but I think I can judge this book alongside all of that. For what it is, Dark Matter is a big fat 8 out of 10, at least an 8 out of 10. In the moment, it may be a 9. But ask me again tomorrow. Did you love Dark Matter? There are so many people that this is a wow book for them. Look at the reviews on BookTube. It's very, very up there. You fucking love it. However, it was our community read along, and I was quite surprised with how many. I'm not saying people get a bit sniffy about this kind of thing, but there was no shortage of people going, yeah, it's not that good actually. Yeah, it's a little bit easy. It's a little bit fucking predictable. Yeah, they got their claws in and they really didn't like it. Maybe there are people amongst that crowd who really fucking hated it as well. And I think there's lots of people in the middle. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Whatever your opinion, let us know in the comments, please.